Title: Don't Touch My Food, a short petty story. I usually invite my siblings to eat out with me like twice a month, and usually I'm the one paying. So I take my brothers, my sis and her boyfriend for a little lunch to a buffet, nothing major. Well, this buffet lets people order custom items, think a hibachi, so I order. We all sit and have a fun chat, then the food is ready, I go pick it up, then I move away to wash my hands before eating. I'm starving by this point cause I hadn't ate at all that day. Well, shortly after coming back, what do I see? My sister, her boyfriend, and my little brothers have eaten damn near half my plate and are licking their fingers in my face. Well, for the past month I've been ordering takeout, bringing it home and eating it all while rubbing it in these people's faces. Title: Mike and the House Phone. Many moons ago, back in the early 2000s, I moved into my first apartment with my boyfriend at the time and his friend, Mike. I had just turned 19 and Mike was 25, I think. Mike was also a man-child and a terrible roommate. He worked at a fast food joint and didn't have a drive. He left empty pizza boxes in his room all the time, always ate my food, made messes in the kitchen and never cleaned them, never cleaned anything for that matter, and was just awful to live with. After a few months, Mike started giving us shit about how he didn't want to pay for 1/3 of the bills. First he complained about the internet, and how he never ever used it. We had a communal desktop computer in the dining room. So I brought up the browser history and asked him who was looking at all the Magic the Gathering websites. So he grumbled and shuffled his feet and retreated back to his room. The following day Mike emerged from his room and declared he would no longer pay any of the phone bill, because he never used the phone. But remember, early 2000s, I think only one of us had a cell phone in the house. At this point I'd had enough of his shit and just said fine. You don't use the phone, you don't pay the phone bill. Now, Mike's work would often call and see if he could come in early or on his days off. Title: My roommate left the pizza cutter dirty, so I hid it and then he said something dumb. My roommate, at the time, had made a frozen pizza and he was looking for the pizza cutter. In the past my roommate would use the pizza cutter then not clean it right away and it would sit dirty in the sink for days on end. I didn't want this to happen, but he wasn't the best at taking any kind of criticism, so I just suggested he use the chef's knife instead. He insisted on using the pizza cutter and refused the knife, saying a pizza cutter worked better for cutting pizza and genuinely thought it was weird to use a chef's knife for such a task. This is where I get petty. I knew exactly where the pizza cutter was and I purposefully hid it so that he couldn't find it and would have to use the chef's knife. At this point I just thought what he said was stupid and didn't really care that he hadn't cleaned it in the past. I had moved on mentally from hiding it because he didn't clean it, to hiding it just because I wanted him to have to use the chef's knife and see that it worked fine. He looked intently for the pizza cutter for a solid 10 minutes and kept asking me if I had seen it in a very serious and confused tone. I kept feigning ignorance and only said I had last seen it dirty in the sink. After looking for a bit, he relented and used the chef's knife to cut his pizza, proving my point to myself and myself alone. Title: Most kids in my second grade, including my good friend, called me a certain name that made no sense, so I took his pencil. So in my second grade we were in a small school with like 15 to 25 kids per grade, and because of what started as a harmless name calling by my pay coach became something everyone called me, including one of my best friends who I talked to a lot more. So one day I grew tired of it and took his pencil, which was his only pencil, and he was a kid who always lost or broke the pencils he had, including ones that he borrowed from others, so other kids or the teacher probably wouldn't let him get one from them in class. Right before lunch and in the middle of the lunch line I slipped it out of my pocket and showed it to him. He panicked and begged for it back because he didn't want to get in trouble for not having one, and I made him promise to not call me any more names ever. He did it quickly. Reminder: we were second graders, so sorry for the probably bad revenge story.